So good evening. I'm just going to say let's get the party started, as we're obviously actively engaged in our budget. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be part of this process. Most people, the general population or public, doesn't realize how important these budget meetings are, in the sense that everything is written, everything is looked at, and is very much influenced on the budget. And I'm just saying that only because I learned that my first year in office. My first year in office, we were in a deficit. And I was like, okay, we're having budget meetings, but we're in a deficit. All right, I'll sit and write all my notes. So I wrote all my notes down. And then as we started to move forward on the budget and started voting for the budget, all of a sudden I saw some things in the budget that I said, oh, I thought we were in a deficit. How did we find some money for these projects? And so that was my first lesson in the budget process. It always takes a rookie to learn it, and then now I'm an expert. So I'm telling you that story because I'm very proud that you're here actively being involved. We have a translator here, so if anybody needs any translation equipment, you may come see Alex.
Buenas tardes, si alguien necesita servicios de interpretación, con gusto se los podemos proporcionar y el equipo está en la mesa de atrás.
I don't know. So this is my first budget meeting because I was in China. I've been traveling with sister cities and traveled with the 21 delegation, 21 people. So you can imagine there was 21 personalities, including mine. And after, I think about the 7th day, you really start to get to know each other. And I, at the end of the day, said, hey, you're very fortunate to have traveled with me, because not even my family travels with me for 14 days. I said, so you've been very special and precious to me, so now you really know me. And so this is my first budget meeting. I heard all of them have been moving and going. I've heard it's been about the arts. I heard it's been about police, fire. I've heard it's been about homelessness. I heard it's been about transportation and bikes. And so I'm sure I'm going to hear all of it. And I'm proud to take that information and be able to have a discussion for the budget. Right now we are going to watch, is it a 5-minute video? A 5-minute video, and then I'll come back, and then we have another video. Is everybody okay with that? Thank you.
Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're gonna make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix senior centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave, or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie, and most departments like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales, and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods and libraries. It's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the city council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the city council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility. and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
All right. Thank you. That's an educational video that actually came out of some feedback we got last year at the budget sessions about trying to make it understandable what the big picture is. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank Councilman Pastor for hosting. I think this is the most highly attended hearing we've had so far, so kudos to our Central City residents for coming out. I want to thank our staff here. We have staff here who are here to listen and talk to you afterwards if you have questions. As was said, the trial budget is for your review and feedback, and we're here at one of 15 public meetings between now and April 17th. If you'd like to speak, we'd ask you to fill out a card. We have about 25 of them so far. This is just so we know how in the order to call you in. When you speak, we'd ask you to go to the microphone over here. I know it feels formal, but we're recording this for Phoenix TV. And it is on the city's YouTube channel and available. As the councilwoman said, it makes it possible for council members and others in the community to view what you say, even if they can't be here. So we thank you for your attendance and we're here to listen. We'll take notes and we'll distribute that information each Thursday evening. It goes to the city council so they can also get minutes or written recording of what you've said as well. With that, we'll go to the video. And this will be an explanation of a higher level of this pamphlet. And if you want even more in-depth, phoenix.gov/budget is where we have all the detail for you. So with that, we'll go to the video and then we'll hear from you.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set-aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79. Adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new sober living home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix. And for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department will use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department will use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
Okay, there it goes. Hello? All right. Here you guys. Everybody has to wake up now. We have several speaker cards, and I will begin in the order that we received them. Ashley Kennedy, and you're part of the art group, so you guys, I think it's Ashley and Alexander that are together, right? Okay. This is my favorite part.
You have some moment to set up, pardon us. All right. Hello. There are more than, in the last 6 years alone, there have grown to be more than 30,000 young people in Phoenix. We are here to bring you stories today. I'm Ashley Kennedy, and I'm with the Youth Arts and Culture Council.
My name is Alex. I have been in dance classes since my freshman year, and I also act in my school's theater productions. Dance has taught me how to challenge myself and push my body to the limits. It allows me to be entirely vulnerable in front of a group of people.
Hi, my name is Sophie Harris, and I am involved in dance and visual arts. My art helps me create and recreate myself through self-expression.
My name is Lauren Kasicki, and I'm a flutist, but my music has become so much more than that. It's not just the songs I play. It's the people I meet, it's the memories I make, it's the feeling I can't get from anything else. Art has made me who I am today, and I wouldn't want it any other way. My name is Helena. I'm a musician and an aspiring filmmaker. Storytelling is an art, and through my art, I am able to tell stories and connect to people in ways I never thought I could.
Especially here in Phoenix, where over a quarter of the population is under 18 years of age. In spite of this, education has never been a huge priority. Within education, arts is a huge part of that. Students who are involved in the arts were 31% more likely to plan for higher education to expand their own future. And among low-income communities particularly, students involved in the arts dropout rates decreased to 4% compared to 22% in other fields.
In the last 30 years, the Office of Arts and Culture's grant budget has not grown to compensate for Phoenix's growing budget, shown in the blue. In 1987, the office received $700,000. This is $1.6 million in today's money. This dropped with the rest of government spending in 2012 with the recession and mortgage crisis. The budget reached an all-time low of $150,000.
Today, the proposed arts and culture budget is $790,000, which can be distributed to 49 cents per person. This is half of the expected budget of $1 per person in most major cities in America. Phoenix should be next.
see an increase in the funding for the Offices of the Arts, specifically for grants, to expand programming to more young artists within District 4.
Funding would help support arts events involving young people within your community and within your district.
Some examples that we have planned in the future would be the Young Phoenix Film Challenge, where young people from across the city have the chance to create short films within their city.
There will also be a viola ensemble produced by young musicians from a local high school.
None of these events would have been possible without the funding we received last year. And in order to ensure events like these continue, we ask for your continued support and growth.
I am 18 and I am a registered voter.
I'm 18 and I'm also a registered voter.
I am 16, and like many of my peers, I am a future voter.
I am 18 and I'm a registered voter.
I'm 17 and I'm also a registered voter. I'm 16 and I will be voting in 2020.
We are your future voters and we will vote for public funding of the arts.
We've learned from the past, we're experiencing the present. What are you doing to help shape our future?
Thank you.
So I always enjoy when the youth come out. I enjoy the fact that they have a voice and that we always but we always think that the next generation is not as good as our generation, but I think this generation is the most awesome generation because you guys are going to make the change. And it's up to you guys now, as you see in gun control, it's going to be the youth that make it happen. So thank you for coming. Item number 3, Rosemary Halusha. And the next person after her will be Alejandro Rangel.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the city manager and Laura for this opportunity. I have a couple questions and a couple items I'd like to talk about. The neighbors in Roosevelt District experienced a really sad murder on March 31st. And I encouraged them to go to their budget meetings because they would like to have more police. They don't feel safe. The person who murdered a father was a homeless man. And I don't know if this is truly a fact, but one of the homeless shelters was closed. And they felt that that could be part of it. But they feel like they have no protection. They had a meeting last week with their council person, and they had asked twice, what can be done to help us? And there was no response. And they asked that in another person or persons. So I think that the city's child budget for police does not have enough police, and I think having them on the streets is a detriment to crime. Also, the center city kind of gets the brunt of a lot of things that the rest of the city doesn't get. And crime has been growing, so I think that's one of the most important things. I have another question. I was at Encano Park last Tuesday from about 3 to 4. I was just sitting there enjoying it. And some crazy guy came walking through, and he was screaming obscenities and just screaming at everybody. And he walked all the way through the park. He came into the main entrance on 15th Avenue, that really pretty entrance, and he went all through the park. It was terrifying. There were a few patrons there. There was nobody at the park, no employees. The gate to the maintenance was closed, so I don't know if they work part-time or what. The park manager was nowhere to be seen. So this man went through very terrorizing people. So I don't know if the city could ever have somebody there, perhaps The weekends, there's no problem because there's so many people around. But during the day, apparently it would be a good idea, I feel, to have somebody there or some maintenance people on call at different times. I have a question, and that has to do with all the apartments in the city. I felt that it was kind of a surprise to wake up one morning and find all these apartments. And there's a section now that they're redoing from Indian School to Osborne on 3rd Avenue. And the whole place is just gutted out with apartments. So my question is, how is that going to impact traffic? How is it going to impact water? The city is going to be so full of traffic, and it's already pretty bad. So I am really wondering how that's going to work out, if that was thought out in advance. Also, I've heard that Osborne at some point is going to go from 4 lanes to 2. And a lot of people in the center city, this always affects the center city, are concerned about that, about getting to the I-17, getting to work. So I don't know if that's a rumor, but the traffic is already so bad, I don't know how that's possible. And also, if we had a terrorist attack or any kind of attack, how would people get around? I think that's something to think about. Also, I'd like to know when the main library is going to open, because it's been quite a while. Is it still going to be open, hopefully?
So that's a lot of questions. We have some staff who can help you. Couple things. Park rangers are one of the things in the budget to help with what you experienced in the park. The library is going to open in June. The Burton Bar Library is scheduled to reopen in June.
Great, thank you.
So that's been about 5 minutes. We're going to try and keep people about 3 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to?
Yeah, I did want to just mention something real quickly, and this has to do with the center city. Yesterday, there was a parade I didn't know about. I didn't see it on TV or it wasn't in the paper, and there was no description of what it was. I was on 7th Street going south, and all the streets were closed. And that was Indian School, Osborne, Thomas, down to McDowell. And then turning right on McDowell, all those streets were closed. Now, I remember when the Fiesta Bowl was here, streets were never closed like that. So the problem was there was nobody around, there were no cars, there were no people, and it could have been a terrorist attack, anything, but there was no description. I think if there had been a sign saying event from blank to blank or what it was, that would have really been helpful. But when you have those things, consider the inner city people, because they're the ones who can't move, who are just paralyzed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosemary. That's a good suggestion for the parade we had yesterday. I'd also just recognize, in addition to our staff here, we have Nicole Pasteur from Mayor Stanton's office with us, so she's in the front if you want to catch her as well.
He had to get the shout out. So Rosemary, you just gave me an idea, and I will talk with staff about it. At the parks, possibly maybe creating an area or I'm just envisioning it, possibly creating a park area where you can call a hotline or call a number where you can get somebody that's within the park. I don't know, I'm thinking it through as you mentioned it. So I'll work with staff on that. As for the Roosevelt incident, it's really sad that it took an incident like this now to really gather around not only the homeless population, but really the transient population. There's a big difference between the homeless and the transient population. What I will say and what I will ask my constituents or those in here, those voters right here, is to push really for a team. We have Phoenix Cares, but Phoenix Cares, what it needs is a different element. And the element that I feel that is probably will be most impactful within the community and make most stride within it is a team that includes police, a homeless outreach person team, a behavioral health, and also a case manager. And they're a team together, so when they go out, like Phoenix Cares goes out, or the CBIs, they call them community bridges, goes out, it's a team going out, trying to figure out, okay, where do we move this person in the sense of what services are needed, are they on meds, who's typing in and seeing the case management piece to see if they've already entered into they're entered into a system. It has been effective in other areas. We used to have it, but due to the recession and budget cuts, it was removed. So I really strongly am going to ask you guys to push for that in that area, or for that. The other piece is, let me see, I wrote my notes. The question about 3rd Avenue and Indian School and Thomas and all the apartments, you and I are on the same page of that. I have been asking department staff, specifically transportations and streets, what's going to happen when all this is built. Not everybody's going to take light rail, and not everybody's going to ride the bike. So how are we going to be moving the traffic? So I'm on the same page as you, asking those questions. We just need to have other colleagues probably push and ask those questions also. Osborne to 4 lanes. I've heard some talk, but nobody has officially from transportation entered my office to speak about Osborne and going down to 2 lanes. Just letting you know that I heard it out in the community, but I have not officially heard it. So just to let you know. And I think I answered everything. Ed answered the library. Okay. Alejandro, where's Alejandro? Hi, Alejandro. And the next one up will be Laura Wild after Alejandro.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alejandro Rangel. You guys are a hard act to follow, for sure. I'm here as a concerned citizen for the city of Phoenix. I'm also here, this June will mark 1 year that I was retired from the Phoenix Fire Department after 31 years. I'm here over 31 years, I saw lots of changes and challenges to the Phoenix Fire Department, but none as drastic and as challenging as the Great Recession in 2008, which over a several-year period, which we've all been talking about, which affected you guys, affected the fire department significantly. What I'm here today is to really look and ask respectfully the mayor, city council, city manager's office, and our fire chief to really look at the significantly dropped staffing levels and also the aging fleet that we have, and several of the fire stations that were put on hold and were never built because of the budgetary crisis in 2008, which is understandable. The problem is that I believe that we're still in the same 2008 budgetary model when 10 years later, which has been a challenge. Over that time, we've seen an increase of 50,000 calls, where we've had no new fire trucks, no new full-time fire trucks put in service, and the staffing levels were approximately 140 positions short. We have one station up in the Norterra area where the firefighters are running from peak times from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Part-time out of a motel, which originally was an empty area of desert, which is now filled in. After 9 p.m., several weeks ago, there was a house fire. The next those firefighters went out of service at 9 p.m. That house burnt down because the next truck was over 10 minutes to get there. A fire after it's the incipient phase, when it's in the free burning phase, reportedly doubles every minute and a half. There's brain death when there's no pulse or breathing after 4 minutes. The response times have increased. When I first started 31 years ago, it was 3.5 minutes. Now it's closer to 5. Mm-hmm. So those things are impacting the fire department's ability to be able to provide service that I think that our communities demand. Just in District 4 alone, to coincide with what Rosemary said, is some of the most violent zip codes are here in District 4, with many of the things that you spoke about. There are 7 fire companies in District 4 running approximately 43,000 calls. That's 25% of the total calls that the Phoenix Fire Departments, and we've seen an increase of 50,000. Station 18, I used to be a captain there many years ago, presently has 2 companies, Engine 918 and Engine 18, each running over 4,000 calls. In addition, they have a peak engine company running from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to staff, and 2 ambulances. They're running over 60 calls out of that station. So the demand is huge, and we haven't increased those staffing budgets, those staffing levels, nor the apparatus, which is an aging fleet. I believe there's only 1 pumper on budget now to be, and we really need 7. So I was a captain at Fire Station 23 when I retired at 32nd Street and Broadway. Our engine had to go out of service to get mechanical issues that had to be taken care of. We took the truck down. They said, hey, we don't have a reserve truck to be able to give you to go back into service. I asked the mechanic, why is that? And he said, because the age of the fleet, all the trucks are breaking down all the time. We don't have any more reserves to be able to give you. We were out of service for 6 hours. That's just really unacceptable. So we're asking, I'm demanding, or just asking that all of you look into that we develop a plan to be able to increase our staffing levels, and also to look at the aging fleet, and also possibly look into the fire stations that have not been built or were put on hold because of the budgetary crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. So this would give you great comfort. As I was traveling in China, I was with 2 firefighters. So I am very much aware, I was very much made aware of the fire up north at 6:30 in the morning as I'm having breakfast and discussing the station that is needed over there. I asked them to please articulate solutions, how we could, in between the time that we are building the station, what it would look like for the future to make sure that the response times are where we're at. And so I just basically responded back and I said, the chief's gonna have to make the request and the chief is gonna have to push that request. So I believe she's aware of it. In particular, also, I think believe when we have more staffing, then our response times go down. But it also goes down, what also then the dynamic is our fleet and our maintenance. And at this moment, we are in the middle of looking at all our maintenance because of the library and the maintenance that needs to happen across the city. So thank you for bringing it up. Laura Wild.
Good evening, and first I want to say thank you so much, Vice Mayor Pastor, Mr. Zerker, and to all the City of Phoenix staff who have given up their nights to be here, listening to the community. We're really appreciative of that. I'm here from the City of Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission as a commissioner and chair of the Arts Learning Committee. And I've been a commissioner for 2 years, and since that time, the money for the arts and support for the arts has gradually increased, and for that, we're extremely grateful and appreciative to you and for all the work that you've done. And obviously, the results are astounding. This is our Youth Arts and Culture Council that we are extremely proud of and is only continuing to do great work. And thanks to your continued generosity in 2017, arts and cultural venues here in District 4, like Phoenix Art Museum, Heard Museum, have flourished. And a part of that is in part to the grant funding that they receive from the City of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. In 2017, also a report from the Americans for the Arts came out that showed that in the city of Phoenix, the arts had an overall economic impact of $402 million, and that was in a single year. So the power of the arts is real. It brings people to our city, it beautifies our surroundings, and it enhances our communities. Tonight, I'm here to thank you for your continued support, the $30,000 to the grants program, and the $84,000 in public art maintenance. But I'm also here to advocate for both of those things and to advocate for an increase. for both grants, funding support, and public art maintenance, which we know is extremely important and throughout our city. Additionally, we'd like to advocate for $1 for the City of Phoenix to invest in the arts program per person, yes, thank you. See, this is why I need them. And we also know that for every dollar the City of Phoenix invests in the arts program, that there's a return of $26 in taxes to the public coffers. So we know that there's going to be a huge impact. I know Vice Mayor Pastore, you've always been a wonderful supporter of the arts, and for that we thank you. We thank you for your constant advocacy and support. And would just like to further impress upon you the importance that we know that an increase to the arts budget will be an increase to the benefits of the City of Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Wiesenthal? Yeah, I got it. I had to figure it out phonetically. They're going to drum their way out.
We're keeping you busy up and down. I am a library user. You might even say that I'm a library groupie. So I'm very grateful to the City Council for the work that's going on with Burton Bar and the fact that it's going to open up in June. I'm also very grateful that in the budget, the temporary hours that have been given to libraries such as Century, which is my branch, are going to be made permanent, that the library is going to be able to be open for 4 additional hours on Sundays. That's a very good step in the right direction, and I'm grateful. But it's only a step. And what I'm really advocating for is for every library, every branch to be open every day for which it is not now. Since 2008, when again, as you've heard, the economy went into the gutter, basically, library hours had to be cut. And so currently, the majority of libraries are closed at least 2 days a week. And those that are not closed 2 days a week are closed at least 1 day a week. So again, I'm advocating for every library to be open every day. We think of libraries as just depositories of books, and that's not really true. It hasn't been true for years. They provide a lot of different services, a lot of different programs, access to computers. One of the biggest problems that cities are facing, states are facing, we hear about in the news all the time, and that is teachers are asking for not only raises for themselves, but for safe schools, modern textbooks, access to supplies. We're seeing this in Arizona. Libraries are trying to pick up some of the slack that the schools are facing by providing programs. Most schools, although they have a library, or at least a room with books, have no budget for new books. So students come to the libraries. They come to libraries not only for books, but to use the computers, for programs such as STEM, which helps with science, technology, and math. Libraries need to be open. They need to be accessible. I don't expect them to be Walmarts or 24-hour service pharmacies, but we need better hours. We need every library to be open every day of the week, morning, noon, and evenings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, I can't say your last name. I'm going to say Mike Atanasio. Is that you? Yep. You're up next. Thank you.
This is my first time doing this, so bear with me, okay? My name is Mike Atanasio. I do homeless outreach 7 days a week, approximately 60 people a night. The problem is growing. It's growing worse. We're losing ground. What I see here on this budget is 6 positions, $728,000. Now, I don't know if there's a business manager out there that would allow for $110,000 per position. I have a Facebook page with approximately 1,100 members, active members, and they keep me funded. Excuse me. I give out approximately 25 to 30 pairs of shoes a week. Wow. My inventory for shoes alone is probably 200 pairs of shoes right now. What I do on a regular basis is awareness. Part of the awareness is finding out what other cities are doing. What I see in some cities is very creative. Converting buses to showers, checking with people on the street for day labor. That kind of thing works for me. What I see here is adding 6 or 7 positions that don't really solve a problem for the homeless. What they do is, for lack of a better word, administrative bureaucracy. We're losing ground on this. There is a health issue. San Diego just had an outbreak of hepatitis C. It jumped to Phoenix. Not good. When I talk to people on the street, I always ask them, what do you need? I give them a 3x5 card, put your name and size of a shoe, or whatever they need. Once in a while I say, hey, when you're ready to get off the street, let me know. What I'll do is contact somebody that I know to be an administrator of the different places around town, shelters. I know many of them. One lady wrote back on a card, remember when you told me that when I was ready to let you know, I'm almost ready. I have that laminated. The issue here is, it's kind of a dirty little secret. There are no open beds in the shelters. 0, sorry. Adding 7 positions and no beds, not a good idea. We can't even get to the point where we can talk to them to arrange a voucher. So I really would like for you to rethink the 7 positions and think creative, the way some other cities are doing. We're not making it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. Jenny Ann Summer, if you want.
While Jenny Ann's coming up, so the proposal on Phoenix Cares is 2 positions that are coordinating an intake of information. The point of Phoenix Cares was we were getting phone calls in sanitation and human services and neighborhood services throughout the city, and what we did was we consolidated it to 1 number so that people didn't have to know, who do I call for a cleanup, who do I call when I see an encampment? There's 1 number. So this staff will take that information in and distribute it to the right place in the city. There's 2 positions that are park rangers to beef up what we heard from Rosemary and others is we need more presence in our parks. So there's 2 park rangers. And then there's a contract with an external group who does outreach to the community about 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's how it's split up. I understand what Mike's saying, but I just wanted to clarify how this proposal is structured. It's not all bureaucracy. There is actually service provision, there's parks and recreation rangers, and that's all part of it. So with that, Ginny Ann, I know you're also on that note. I just teed it up for you.
Good evening, excuse me, and thank you for the opportunity. I agree that we cannot arrest our way out of all the issues of homelessness, but we need to recognize that homeless by choice has now become a lifestyle, and the criminal element is now within homelessness. We had a program that was helping, but chose not to support ROPE and chose Phoenix Cares instead. Phoenix has services, and multiple nonprofits have services as well, but Phoenix chose Phoenix Cares over the leadership role of coordinating and eliminating the duplication of services that we have today. Now the budget suggests that even more money go for Phoenix Cares. At the last Public Safety and Veterans Subcommittee, I did not hear any results that I could support additional funding. What I would support funding for is additional case workers. Councilwoman, I agree with you. I think your idea of creating the kind of team you just talked about is excellent. That's like you say we've had previously. We know that it works, and it certainly is worth trying again. And I appreciate those comments. The people of Phoenix are generous and caring. So please, Phoenix, develop a program letting people know how they can help the homeless rather than enabling the homeless. It worked at Christmas time. I know if we have a year-round program, we'll have much better success with it. Please, Phoenix. Every Phoenix Cares meeting I attended, the neighbors were frustrated over the issues in our parks. And yet we still don't have a code of conduct for our parks. I understand there are meetings going on, but unfortunately none of the citizens that have been impacted by the situations in the parks have been included. The criminal element in our parks is not a park ranger issue, but one for a rope officer. Our streets and water and pipelines are failing. We're not Detroit yet, but it's getting ugly out there. One of the problems is that we allow both the city of Phoenix and others to dig into our streets. But rather than saying we must return the condition of the street or improve it, oftentimes we just end up with little squares or part of a lane that's filled in. And so after a while you have the loop-de-loo situation going on our streets. And it's time to be honest about the shortage of our police officers instead of playing a numbers game. Calls for service are not being answered, even for gunshots. Thank you.
Thank you. John Walker.
Hello, my name is John Walker. I'm here on behalf of the Phoenix spokespeople. First off, thank you very much for hearing our comments, listening to our comments. As we have year after year, we are asking for better bicycle infrastructure, but specifically, I think a focus in the news recently with Phoenix has been safety or the lack of safety, specifically for pedestrians, and that also plays into cyclists and drivers. I think adding bike infrastructure, as the city has started to do, thanks to the T2050 funds, is a really important part of making our streets safer. The people are driving too fast, and the streets, the way most of the streets are designed now, really promote people going as fast as possible. And that really does not mesh well with the residents of Central Phoenix and the fact that we want safety and we want livability. I bike commute every day. I drop my toddler off at school every day. And Virginia Avenue, which is just south of Thomas, they restriped it, eliminated lanes of traffic, and added a paint buffered bike lane. So that part of my ride is actually quite nice, and I feel safe with my toddler. When we approach 3rd Street, however, 3rd Street is not a very good street right now. There's plans to change that, but just in the past several months, I've seen 2 red light runners, and I've seen a fairly serious collision involving 3 vehicles. And in fact, one of the cars went onto the sidewalk and sheared off the pedestrian call button. So had I been standing there with my daughter or anyone else standing there, that would have been a fatality right there. Before, I used to be a prosecutor at the county attorney's office for vehicular crimes. So we would deal with crimes like that involving people driving too fast. And the fact of the matter is the roads are designed in Phoenix not for safety, but for speed. And I hope that we can change that. And I know the city has worked with us and is working with us. But I think an emphasis should be on spending money to decrease collisions and fatalities because there's just way too many. It's too dangerous out there. And to include protected bike lanes. And I know for the coming year there's no plan for protected bike lanes, and I think that's unfortunate. There is some plans for protected bike lane on 3rd Avenue, and we have been working with the city. So that's a good start. 3rd Street, when the changes do come, I think will be a good start, but we need to focus on safety and enable other people to be on the road safely. And there's been some concern about traffic, and I certainly think that is an issue, but what I will tell you is every person that's on light rail, every person that's on a bike is a person that's not on a car. So if we can improve that and promote that, that will help the traffic situation, and the best way to get people on bikes is to make them feel safe. So I hope you can help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say in China, bicyclists and automobiles coexist. And it was very interesting to watch as one that was sitting and watching. What I was really impressed is that they did have protected bike lanes. And the way they did it is it was really in an art form. And so how they use their protective bike lanes and how they, it was like a, I don't even know how to describe it. I took pictures of it. But I kind of want to say it was like a planter, but then they decorated it. It was art. It was all art. And so it was very modern to me. And I was like, wow, this is how they do it. Of course, their lanes are a lot wider because there's more bicyclists, and they're moving, and the lanes were specific on how the way the cars went, the bicyclists went, and it was just a very interesting, for me to see it all happen all at once and how they coexist amongst each other. There were moments where it was a little dangerous, where I was like, I asked the taxi driver, I said, wait a minute, who has the right-of-way here? And they just kind of said, we all kind of figure it out. I did not see any accidents, but you have to also remember the population in China. And in automobiles, there are certain days where you're not allowed to drive your automobile. There's 2 days that you're not allowed to drive your automobile. So it can happen, I guess is what I'm saying. Donna Reiner.
Good evening. My name is Donna Reiner. I happen to be the president of the Friends of Phoenix Public Art, and Councilwoman Pastor and Mr. Zuckerman. We have met before about this issue, but I want to say that as the Friends, we are pleased. I mean, we're thrilled that you have the city supportive of arts and culture. And certainly these students who are up here who have now left, hopefully to study or something, are an example of how what the city is doing is benefiting. It's a really wonderful thing. But I am here because public art, there's something mentioned in the budget. We need to take care of our decaying equipment, our buildings. We also need to take better care of our public art. The city has invested millions and millions, and we won't go into the exact amount, to install public art throughout the city. And this is a nationally and internationally recognized program. We're really hot stuff. We would like to see an increase in the public art maintenance fund to bring it up to $100,000. That's an ask of $16,000. It's not very much, but it really would go a long way. I calculated last year's perceived budget to take care of normal needs was about 234,000. So naturally, not all of it was taken care of. But the Friends are here to assist the city. We are raising money to take care of some of the bigger projects. We also, for the past 6 years, have maintained, paid for the installation of the exhibits in City Hall, in the gallery. Currently, we are showing the art from Burton Bar, but other libraries have public art. Some of it doesn't work right. It would be nice for all those people who are going to the library every day of the week, because I believe that too, if they could see these pieces of public art functioning the way they are supposed to. So, $16,000, bring the fund up to $100,000, and we will be happy for at least one more year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just talking tonight, but my philosophy in that is in the future, any type of artwork that we build or place, there has to be a maintenance budget with it. So I'm just saying that's what needs to happen, so that we're not having these discussions. Craig Tripkin.
Hi. Hi, thank you for hearing us, Councilwoman and City Manager. I want to talk about homelessness a little bit, specifically about the money for Central Arizona Shelter Services, CAS as it's commonly known. Homelessness is bad for the individual who's homeless, it's bad for the neighborhoods that person's in, and it's bad for the community. I think it doesn't show well for the city of Phoenix. The data shows, and I've got plenty of data to tell you about, but I'll try to keep it short. The data shows that shelter beds plus case management works. Now, we don't have beds available. The gentleman earlier was correct. We are pretty much full all the time. Unsheltered homeless in the city has tripled in the last 6 years. It's tripled in the last 6 years. The number of shelter beds come this September are going to be reduced by 27% over the last 2 years in the city of Phoenix. That's 382 beds that we will actually be down shelter beds in the city of Phoenix, and actually that's in the valley, in the Maricopa County area. Most of those are in Phoenix. Case management. We have a case management profile. We're able to get to about a third of the people that we see who qualify for case management. That's not every one of the 5,000 people we see each year. We're only able to get to about, like I say, a third of the people that we actually are able to qualify for case management. And again, that's a much lower number than the total number we see. 80% of our known case management exits are positive. Exits to family, exits to housing, exits to friends' places, some sort of diversion that works. But 80% of the people who get case management, and again, that's a 1/3 of our total number that need case management, actually have 80% successful outcomes. We can free up, with better case management, we can shorten length of stay in the shelter. We can free up beds. Estimates vary, but basically I can tell you that I feel pretty confident that we can free up 50 to 100 beds each night with proper case management, with good case management, effective level of case management. We case manage right now at a 47 to 1 level. National standard is 30 to 1. If we're going to get serious about dealing with homelessness, we need to have shelter beds and we need to case manage people. The city's putting lots of dollars into homelessness, and it really is not going to do that much good if we don't have a place to take them and have services. And I agree with some of the people who've differentiated between transients and homeless, but we do have plenty of people who need good service platforms to get out of their homelessness. Shelter and case management works. If you want to get a homeless people out of your neighborhoods, the way to do it is to get them a bed at CAS. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Benjamin?
So my name is Paul Benjamin. I live at 526 West Virginia in Phoenix and in the Willow neighborhood. I'm here to speak about 3rd and 5th Avenues, also known as the commuter route through Willow. I have here a petition, an online petition entitled Stop Speeding on 3rd and 5th Avenues. We have 417 supporters. I'm not going to turn it in tonight. It's addressed to mayor and council, so we'll do it at a city council meeting. But I'll read it to you. Mayor Stanton, Vice Mayor Pastor, and members of council, the Willow neighborhood has a significant issue with speeding. On 3rd and 5th Avenues, walkers, bikers, kids, and pets are being jeopardized by commuter speeding, primarily during the morning and evening rush hours. Additionally, we have cut-through speeding on Encanto Boulevard, Edgemont Avenue, Windsor Avenue, Almeria Road, and other east-west streets. We're also experiencing illegal traffic on the alleys that connect to First Avenue. We are aware that long-term solutions are being investigated in conjunction with pending changes to 3rd and 5th Avenue south of McDowell, but the current conditions require immediate attention. We urge you to make the issue top priority and work with the police and street transportation departments to find measures that will address our unsafe streets. We're counting on your support. There'll be a couple of other people who may address the longer-term situation. We've got a crisis brewing where you're going to make some good changes south of McDowell, and you haven't done the homework to make that fit with what's north of McDowell. We have some budget suggestions to help resolve that process, and I think you'll hear about them. But I'm more concerned about some immediate funding to beef up the enforcement of the speed limits in Willow. I'm afraid there's people in the city government that don't believe we have a speeding problem. They don't seem to understand that if you put up an electronic sign that says your speed is, people are going to slow down when they see that. So when you record that and then bring that back as evidence that we don't have a speeding problem, you don't understand what's going on. We've got some comments here from the people who signed the petition. I think we'll speak to some of that. I can get this paper adjusted here. Okay. It's time to stop this dangerous problem. As a longtime Willow resident, I know that speeding has always been a problem on 3rd and 5th Avenues. I'd love to see a green belt take the place of one or two of those travel lanes, but any action to slow cars would be appreciated. I'm signing because I've lived in Willow for 18 years and I walk dogs nightly and cannot believe how people speed right over the speed bumps. It's horrendous and dangerous. I'm signing because I care about my senior neighbors and the little kids in our neighborhood. Speed kills. The traffic on 3rd and 5th Avenues is egregious and out of control. People treat it as a highway because it's one way and 2 lanes. I've seen people passing and speeding rapidly to the speed bumps and then sometimes slowing down briefly. It's incredibly unsafe for pedestrians, children, and pets. At many times of the day, there are upwards of 20 cars in a single mass driving through this neighborhood, and it is loud and dangerous. There's no other neighborhood in Phoenix with this potential to be a thoroughfare in the center of it. Please change the lanes to 1 dedicated lane and 1 protected bike lane. This has been going on far too long. The problem here is that, I'm almost done. The problem here is that these are residential streets, and yet I believe the street transportation department views them as a means of getting people in and out of downtown. And there's not other residential streets in this city that do that. They're not collectorals, they're not collector streets, they're not arterials. They're our neighborhood where we'd like to walk. And we'd like to see some funds allocated to enforcement.
So my response to that is we are working on it. We are in the middle of it. As you stated, Paul, we've had several people out there with cameras. The data is not showing that. I have asked right before I left to China with police. I sat with the commander and said, what is it that we can do? How is it that we can show the neighborhood feels and sees that there's speeding happening? However, the data is not collecting it. What is it that we need to do? So I just want to put it out there. We are in the middle of it. What's going south of McDowell would not be happening, would not be going north of McDowell if I hadn't pushed really hard on traffic and streets saying, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen all the way up. So it's happening. It may not be happening at lightning speed, but we are pushing it as much as I can push it and as much as possible. So I'm just letting you know and letting Willow know and Bob Cannon know and everybody else of the Willow Association that it is happening. Okay, and I'm trying. So thank you. Yeah. Casey Whitehead.
Hello guys, thank you for having me, Councilwoman and City Manager. My name is Casey. I work at Andre House. We're at 11th Avenue in Jackson in downtown Phoenix. And what we do is we provide basic services for people experiencing homelessness. So these are laundry, showers, clothing, lockers, and we have a dinner 6 nights a week free if anyone wants to come. And what I'm here to talk about is Phoenix Cares. So Phoenix Cares is the initiative that sends out teams to help guide people towards resources into areas. It's people in encampments, people in parks, etc. We know this. What Phoenix Cares is not doing is it's not providing resources for the most vulnerable. So I'm here to advocate that Phoenix Cares does not get as much money as we are proposing in this budget, and I propose that, I kind of like your idea, Councilwoman, with the with the police and the case manager and all the other aspects, like that could be something that could work. We need to be creative with our, what we have, and we need to be creative with our solutions. When I talk about the most vulnerable, that is the people who are medically fragile, and that is the people who are mentally ill. So I kind of heard that story of this person running through the park, and there is a man who comes to Andre House. I won't say his name. We love him so dearly, and we call him the Screaming Man. He needs help. There are people who are mentally ill, who are on the street, who are in the parks, who are not supposed to be in the streets. People should not be sleeping on the streets. People should be having a home. They should be having a place where they can rest their head. These people, so we're advocating for more money, more beds at CAS. CAS is a great solution for when it comes to the case management, I believe, but when it comes to more beds and more shelter, we need housing. We need more for our people. So why is Phoenix Cares not helpful? It's not helpful because these people are moving to the Andre House area in Cass, and which is the zone area south of Washington and north of the railroad tracks between 8th Avenue and 15th Avenue. And our guests are sleeping on the street. They're unable, because of their behavioral issues, they're not able to get into the shelter. They're not able to get into Overflow, which is on the same campus as the CAS. And I'm also here to talk about how we need to find more solutions for more beds and more shelter. And I'm proposing that we have some sort of zero barrier shelter. Other cities such as Seattle, Portland, they have these great zero barrier where less people are on the street and they're able to provide more access. Zero barrier is for people who have pets, they're married, different things like that. We need more resources. So when Phoenix Cares pushes people down into the zone, there's no resources to provide for them. With Overflow closing, that's most of the 27% of beds. There's going to be 27% less beds. That's going to be 250 people that are on the street. There's 250 people going to be on the street at the end of September, and we need to make this not happen. Everyone deserves a home, everyone deserves a bed, everyone deserves support. And I'm advocating for more shelter, more case management, and for the wraparound support that our citizens need. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Marianne Cook. Is she here? Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I have a speaker. I have a speaker card, sorry. But to let you know, Patricia, they were called the Homeless Outreach Team, and they were called the HOT Team that I was speaking about in the past. The team that with the police, behavioral health, case manager, and services, they were called the HOT Team. So I'm advocating to bring them back and see how hot they are. Nicole Rodriguez.
So every year that I come to budget hearing meetings, I always advocate for public safety. And this year, I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, but in line with public safety, and that's public health and safety. And a big asset is actually our tree. Urban forests in Phoenix have not shown any improvement since the implementation of our 2010 Tree and Shade Plan. And at the beginning of that was back in 2008, we had a tree shade canopy of, it's approximated to be 11 to 13%. There's been an assessment since then that approximates to 9%. We have not seen any shade improvement since then. And we're asking for a budget to replace a marginal amount that puts us still in a deficit for our tree and shade canopy. And we know that there's numerous benefits to our tree and shade canopy, but we don't have the money to spend. And really what I'm asking for is an increase in what we have set aside in the trial budget. It's not going to meet the tree and shade incentives that are part of the action plans and the various goals that what we have to do in order to make this part of a resilient city. Trees are critical infrastructure in many ways. And to add to that, the sad part of this is that we only have one certified, well, we have a couple certified arborists in the city of Phoenix. We have tree trimmers that are certified arborists. As far as I know, and Ingrid would know better, we have one certified arborist that actually sits in an office and can allocate some time to actually implement, a better tree and shade canopy. I hear about the 18 positions in planning and development, maybe something considered to talk about having at least maybe 2 or 3 of those positions, having more staff on there, certified arborists. I'm a certified arborist, but I'm still not the expert on knowing everything with the city, and we do have one, but that's only one guy. I think we can do a better job. And with that, this money's going to the streets department. We have a parks department, and I think we can increase funding for parks, instead of the $8 per person, increase it to something like $10 per person on our parks funding, and that money set aside just for tree and shade canopy, increasing that. I guess lastly, I'm a cyclist. We only have one operating vehicle in our family. Either both of us or one of us cycles. A big issue that we're seeing in Phoenix, that everyone's seeing, whether you're a driver or not, is the increase in pedestrian fatalities or incidents. And I do not observe anywhere in Central Phoenix or anywhere in the city of Phoenix where our current bike infrastructure is going to actually make us feel safe. I do it out of necessity, and so does my husband. We bike ride. Part of that's to save money for other things on gas that we would never really want to put money into, but sometimes we do have to drive, but when we're not, there's not always, there's going to be a day where there's incidents, but it shouldn't have to be that way. We shouldn't have to feel that way when we're out there, because we both have had close calls. I think we can improve that. The mileage that we have for bike infrastructure is too low. So I just wanted to share that lastly, and I think that's about it. So thank you.
Abby and Derek, are you guys coming up?
Hello, my name is Derek Tomich, and I just wanted to say I think we should have more trees for shade because it's really hot and sunny in the summertime, and I think shade is something that we would need.
Hi, my name is Abby, and I agree with my brother what he says, and I also think we also need more bike lanes, because my family all likes to bike, but sometimes we don't always get to bike because my family thinks about will we really be safe on the streets, because drivers are so unpredictable. We don't know what they're going to do. So we just want safer bike lanes that are protected, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Good job. Brad Bauer?
Good evening, Madam Councilwoman, Mr. City Manager. Thank you very much for all that you've done. My name is Brad Brower. I'm at 302 West Monte Vista. I'm the Vice President of the Willow Neighborhood Association. Thank you so much, Laura, for all that you do. We do understand that you are working for us, and Mr. Zerker, you've been there many times for me when I was the past president of the Willow Neighborhood Association. Thank you. Not to re-harp on what Paul had already said, but as a reminder, 3 years ago, the section of 3rd and 5th between Roosevelt and McDowell started changes happening to it. Those changes developed into one lane, one way on those streets. Once you hit McDowell, it's now a freeway. And we've seen what had the results of that when people were doing a little bit of construction work, moving utilities, et cetera, in preparation for these changes. That freeway that people see as they cross McDowell from one lane is a way to go to what looks to them like 3 lanes. And as this gentleman was talking about with bicycle lanes and a couple of other people as well, our bicycle lanes are often used as routes of traffic. People think they fit in those 4-lane places. They don't. Unfortunately, the bicyclists and myself feel that pain periodically. So what we were asking for the city to do, and we wrote a letter to our councilperson, Mr. Zerker, I don't know if it hits you or not, it also went to the mayor, was to start looking at making those changes. Luckily, some funds were found through MAG to start that research. What we would like to ask, and we're going to ask you officially very soon here, is to look at making that happen sooner, looking at budget 2019 for implementation, doing change orders to what's already happening in the south side of 5th and 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Olesko.
I thought you couldn't pronounce my name at first when the other mic went off. I thought. So good evening, Vice Mayor, City Manager, and City Council for their support of the arts. I, like Laura Wild, am a Commissioner on the City of Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission, a position I take very seriously and very proud to serve. I'm on a committee, the Public Art Committee, and while we can vet projects going forward for maintenance issues, we have little control of what we can do with the past. And we have some serious issues with maintenance, as you heard from Donna Reiner earlier. What I'd like to point out is we've got a priority list that I pulled. We have 3. The first one is the wall cycle to Ocotillo. That alone to repair would be $178,000. We have an art budget right now of $84,000. The other 2 is the Ed Pastor pedestrian bridge, built in 2008, and then we have the McDowell Road Gateway, built in 1991. So as projects come forward, we do our best in the Public Art Committee to really vet them, not only financially, we do take a fiduciary responsibility, but also for maintenance, because it's really critical, because we know that our maintenance budget is low. And hopefully, going forward, as you said, Laura, that maintenance would be included with any new project. And in a matter of time, that's all I had to say. Thank you. And thank you for your support.
Jennifer Glenn. Huh? Oh, okay. And bicycle safety. Yes. Okay, got it. Laura Sands, or Lara Sands? And then after that will be Sam Newman.
Hi, I'm Lara Sands. I live at 318 West Monte Vista Road in Willow, in District 4. I'd like to speak tonight about road safety. It was terrible to read in the news this morning about the jogger being killed in front of GCU. It's terrible to read the news every morning. Pedestrians are being struck. Cyclists feel endangered. I'm sure drivers feel bad too. I happen to be a cyclist most of the time. I cycled here tonight, but I had to think really hard about it because it's dark now. I don't have the most direct ride to get back home, even with my safety vest and my helmet and my lights. And I'm a well-educated cyclist, and I've cycled all over the world, but our city needs better infrastructure, specifically for cyclists and for pedestrians. My husband and I own 6 bikes. 3 of them are specifically for our guests who come to visit us. And my mom won't get on a bike, and not because she can't bike, but because she looks at our roads and thinks, I can't do that. But we've been places where we've had separated cycle lanes, and she's done it. She doesn't feel safe on our roads, and that's a reasonable judgment that she's making. I have a friend who's here tonight who also owns a bike, is perfectly capable of cycling, and is scared to cycle. But I think if we invest in separated cycle tracks, protected bike lanes, then we'll have more cyclists. And this density that's coming to our city, which I think is wonderful. I love our coffee shops. I love the additional people on the street. And it's scary to have more people if it means more cars. But if we provide the infrastructure for people to get around in ways that don't require their cars, then I think this city could be magnificent. And it's a great place to bike. I've lived in places with snow, with wet leaves, with lots of hills. The city's flat, it's sunny, it's dry, and we have these really wide streets that have lots of room where we could add protected bike lanes. So I'd like to see the city invest in that, and sooner rather than later. Thank you.
You mentioned cycle track. I am pushing cycle track all the way through, but we're not in agreement. I really do think that what I'm going to do, find a pro bono engineer to demonstrate to me how, and look at the paperwork that they've given me and have them analyze it to see why we really can't have a cycle track on 3rd. So that is the biggest debate I'm having right now. So, Sam.
Thank you. My name's Sam Newman. I am a bicycle mechanic for Grid Bike here in Phoenix. I'm also a Master of Public Administration student at Arizona State University, downtown Phoenix. And I'm mainly studying and wanting to do something what Joe Perez does, who's the bicycle coordinator for the city of Phoenix. I think his work is really important. And a couple points I just wanted to make tonight. So I am a cyclist. I ride my bike every day. I think it's incredibly important to do it. I feel healthy, and I'm getting sun and vitamin D. I'm also way more social. I'm way more able to meet people on the street, say hi. There's a sense of community there. All while not, starting my car and putting emissions in the air. Air quality is an issue for me. I moved to Phoenix last year, and within the first month, I got sick. Just through, I was living off of 25th Ave and Broadway, and had terrible exhaust. When I rode my bike, go into my lungs on my commute, and about a month of that, I actually had to move. I'm not going to solely blame it on the motorist, but that was a large piece. Currently, I live on 12th Street and, 12th Street and, let's just talk about my commute. So, I go through Coronado almost every day to get to my job, and I got to be there by 8 a.m. And I almost religiously have my chain fall off of my chain ring. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll just adjust the chain tension and solve this problem. But unfortunately, the roads are so terrible that it's almost like a religious experience. Every time I do it, it's like, oh man, yay, I'm getting excited to get my chain back on my chain ring, and then I'll have to go. So it's a constant. It's kind of distracting, really. So if you could please make some funds eligible for 12th Street between Thomas and Coronado, that would be really important. I believe the last time it was resurfaced was 1988, and that was the year I was born.
I graduated then.
Oh. So cycling is also really important as far as the community and the culture in this town. It's fairly low, but I hope that it will grow, and I hope to be part of that growth. So there's two community bike rides that I'm a part of, both Phoenix Down Tempo, and that happens on Monday, and then also Slippery Pig Bike Ride, and that goes out of Crescent City Ballroom. And gosh, man, it's so cool to be able to meet other people on bicycles, people who are passionate about moving with their own power. I think it's really, really great and excellent for the city. The culture is really what keeps people on their bikes. Having a cool bike will initially get you out there, but the culture, riding with people, is really important. The only way to do that, though, is with strong bicycle infrastructure. So if we enable a really strong bicycle program that's stronger than it is right now, and infrastructure that supports that, I think we are going to see excellent results. Thanks.
Thank you for moving to District 4. It's an awesome district. Mona Krenbring? Did the babies go home?
They're home.
Okay.
And asleep. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to speak about our concerns. Last minute, I decided to come out tonight, and it was the instigation was the tragedy that happened in Roosevelt. So I know we spoke about this initially at the meeting. Over 2.5 years ago, I live at West Holly, right in front of Encano Park, and I live in Encano Palmcroft and living there. And over 2.5 years ago, we had, on 3 separate occasions, had a woman who was mentally ill and homeless tried to break in while I was home. I was pregnant at the time, and I was frightened. And the third time, we were very lucky that the police were able to show up because she was unrelentless. She wanted to get in, and I'd never seen my husband so scared, and he's served in Iraq. So luckily the police came, and they took care of her, but they couldn't provide her with services beyond basically they kept her in jail for 6 months, and she needed help, and I felt for her because mental illness, and I work in mental health. I have my master's in clinical psychology, and she can't receive any help, and she's back out on the streets, probably trying to break in because she thought it was her house. Anyways, my point is, last week I've been thinking about it daily about the poor woman who lost her husband. I think daily about how to save my children. Should someone actually try to break into the house, and I think of an escape plan. So I just think, do I get the baby? Do I get the toddler? Which door do I leave? We've invested in security cameras and alarms. I check my locks repeatedly, and I just feel so exposed. And I really hope something can happen in terms of providing the mentally ill some kind of more help. There's got to be a different system that's in place, and we need more police officers that can respond, because I was lucky that day. I was lucky that she didn't get in the house. I was lucky that she wasn't violent and that we were safe, but I don't know if we could be that lucky again. So I really hope that the city is able to put forth the funds for that. So Thank you.
Thank you. So my kids have a safety route. I have thought of how I would move in and out of my house if somebody is to break in, what they are responsible of doing, and that they know mom to go and get to the door. They know where the key is. They know how to get out. And I tell them, don't worry about mom. Mom will figure it out. So I understand your thought process, and I also feel your pain. So, Jeff Spellman.
Good evening, Councilwoman Pastor and Mr. Zerker. It's good to be here. Jeff Spellman, I'm here tonight on behalf of two different organizations. The first is Take Action Phoenix. You know us as the group of citizens who've worked very closely with your office and all the other council members to come up with a comprehensive regulation package, zoning and licensing, that is going to change how the sober living home industry is regulated in Phoenix. And we're very excited about that. The city's done a really, really good job on that. And so with that, we're very supportive of the positions that the city's going to require in order to implement that program. So we do support that very much. The second organization I'm here with is the Violence Impact Project Coalition, and Councilwoman Pastor. Part of the VIP actually is in your district. This is the third budget hearing that I've been to, and I just want to say that this is a really nice format. Sounds like we're having a conversation with the councilwoman and the city manager as opposed to just one-way feeding information. But the issue I want to talk about with VIP is homeless support. And as it was originally pitched, Phoenix Cares was supposed to reduce the impact on neighborhoods, and it hasn't done that. I do not support additional funding for the CBI, community outreach workers, that part of the proposal. After 6 to 8 contacts, CBI only gets 1 in 10 off the street. That's a program that's not 10% effective. Any effective, it's 90% ineffective. And I have to say I'm so excited about what you're suggesting as a better way, because I believe there does need to be a better way. So while the trash, needles, and human waste piles up in our neighborhoods, this can't continue to go on this way. So one thing I want to point out, when the city reports that they've gotten 1 in 10 people into permanent or temporary housing, that's not even what the contract calls for. I did some research. I looked up the contract online that you currently have with CBI, and it requires them to get 15% of the people into permanent or temporary housing. So that contract is not even being followed with the $2.5 million that you've dedicated in that contract over 5 years. So maybe the city auditor could get into there and take a close look at that, take that money and find a better way. I like your idea about the team approach, and I want to say one place where it actually is working close to that, and that's with the Park Ranger program. I've been hounding. Our parks have been hit so hard with the homeless encampments, and that is one area where they're actually using that model pretty similar to what you're suggesting. I know the Park Rangers go out side by side with the police officers and with CBI, and their approach is not 6 to 8 contacts from now, we'll see what happens. Their approach is, do you want services? We'll take you now. If you don't want services, we're going to deal with the behavior that's happening now, not 6 to 8 times from now. I also support the additional positions for neighborhood services. That department is overwhelmed with the calls coming from neighborhoods, so they do need some additional help doing the triage on the calls coming in. One area that you haven't dedicated any money in this program is for public works or streets. Those are the two departments that are charged with going out, and after services provided, cleaning things up, whether it's on the street right of way or on public property. There is no money provided in Phoenix Cares for public works or streets. So take some of that $300,000 or part of that $2.5 million and give it those departments. So with that, thank you very much. Really appreciate your support. This is a budget that has a lot of priorities for, actually all of the areas have a lot of priorities for neighborhoods, and I think overall it's done a really, really good job. So thank you.
Can you talk about how you view the state legislation
For the sober living homes? Yeah, there's a bill that's moving through, it's just about through the whole legislative process now. It's a sober living home bill at the state, and the same group that worked at the city also worked with the state legislators, and we were a little bit fearful that it was going to undo the work that the city put together on that process, but we actually worked with Senator McGee and got some amendments in that. We think it will be good once it goes into place, because really the ultimate place sober living home regulation belongs is with the state, the Department of Health Services. So we're very appreciative that in the interim, because it's going to take at least 2 years for the state to get a handle on that when the city's ready to deal with it now. So in the interim, and we're being told that just about any day now the governor's going to sign the bill, so we're happy about that.
Well, Jeff, I have another job for you, assignment for you.
Okay, bring it on.
Since you have done that, I'm looking at also, it's going to take more people to dedicate also to our homeless or the vulnerable population in need. And so I think that's probably going to be the next legislation we're going to need the community work on.
We'll be there for you.
With the legislature, so.
Thank you.
Maddie Meyer? I know I'm talking a lot tonight. I haven't been, this is my first budget meeting. I'm the one that usually has 6, so I only have 2 this year.
So I'm here to just kind of echo what my fellow cyclists have been saying, that Phoenix just needs safer streets, and I think bike lanes add to people driving slower, less lanes of traffic, and more people on bikes, less people in cars. I also ride with the community rides here, and it is just like a really great feeling to be with a big group of people and riding your bikes and sharing your passion for that. And we just would like to feel safer out there. We want, more speed cameras and red light cameras and, just more regulations, drivers kind of being more educated, I feel like. I get yelled at every single day riding down Central on a lane every lane is a shared bike lane, Bikes aren't supposed to be on the sidewalks running into pedestrians. They're supposed to be on the street, riding alongside cars, and cars are supposed to slow down and get out of the way and go about their drive, The 1 second it takes to go around a cyclist is no reason to stop and scream at them and harass them, which is what we face all the time. So I really would like to just see some, more like 3 feet please billboards or something, like drivers don't know that we're allowed to be out there on the streets, and, we just like to, have safer streets for bikes.
Diane Barker? And after that, it's Abraham. Abraham came late. That's what happened.
Good evening, Vice Mayor
Good
Pastor
evening.
and City Manager Ed Zerker and public. I'm Diane Barker, part of the Roosevelt Neighborhood Association. And I thought it was a kind of a hard act to follow that first group. And so I talked with them, Helena and Lana, and I said, I don't play an instrument, but I dance. And they said, go for it. So anyway, I think what you folks have said are things that are in my heart about commuting, bicycle, walking. City now, a lot of you are like the inner city of the big city of Phoenix, which has the next land that is bigger than LA. And having lived downtown for 5 years, I really have seen the traffic back up under Deck Park. It's gotten so that it's 7 days a week, and around 2 o'clock, already westbound going over to the I-17, which has been dubbed one of the worst highways in the United States, top 5. It's a backup, so we really need to do something. My suggestion was we do BRT. The Valley Metro already made a plan in 2003 that there would be a platform around Deck Park. And I think we need some, people talked about innovation. They're looking at grade light rail out to the Capitol. Well, off of that platform, why can't we have a monorail that would go around the city? Really, the future is now, and the petrol cars are better for going out of the city. Electric is better in, or no emissions. We had the gentleman talking about how he moved to this area and he got ill. We need to clean up the air. Most of the comments tonight had to do with cleaner living, affordable housing, getting around, in sharing the roads with many types of transportation. Today, even though we have people voting for and saying, yeah, let's have more transit, but you see that we are victims of our habits because our choice the next day is to get into our single occupancy vehicle. So I wanted to propose, and this could be out of several departments, police department, the parks department, the human services department, public transit department. We have people that need direction. And they're in cars, they're on feet, they're on bicycles. We have people, I know in the summer, I found people down. They needed water. I carry water around. I'm out every day. It doesn't matter whether it's 1:15, I'm out there. I want to see that the city would take from these departments some money that could be part of the Phoenix Cares and fund for 3 positions to start off with, that people that would be physically able to be out at any type of temperature, that would be helping people that are out there, hands-on customer service people. They would be helping with direction, with services, homeless. They would be helping with transit. They would be on call. They'd be well-groomed and clean, and they would make the city friendly. We got a report, and I don't know who did it, wants to put Phoenix down. They said, we're an unfriendly city. I don't believe that. But let's get out in front and put that smile on and be top-notch quality customer service. I will put in my proposal at the budget department. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. You're always looking good. Abraham.
Hello. My name is Abraham James. I am the chair of the Library Advisory Board. I am the chair of the Encanto Village Planning Committee. I am also the chair of the Greater Green Gables Neighborhood Association. I used to be the chair of the Citizen Transit Commission at one point. I am very much a supporter of the Phoenix Public Library. I would request that we provide more hours and less days of closure for our libraries. I am also a supporter of the Phoenix Public Arts. I really feel that we need to provide more funding to support our aging public art throughout our city. I'm very much a supporter of streets and transportation. I'm a supporter of sustainable neighborhoods. I would also hope that we provide more funding for our youth and senior centers. What is very close to my heart, I would hope that you would provide more funds toward providing affordable housing within our city, and to provide more funding dealing with the issues of homelessness and our transit populations within our city. Thank you very much.
Abraham, you have a lot of jobs like me. You must be a very good leader and chairing all those committees. I know how you feel. Jay Minich, hope I said that correctly. If not, you can correct me. And I just want to acknowledge to the Andre House personnel or people that are here representing them. I did receive the letter and I read my emails. It takes me a little while, but I do read them.
Good evening, Mr. City Manager and Ms. Vice Mayor. We've heard an awful lot this evening about homelessness and about safety, and really I just want to echo a lot of the comments that have been made. I'm the finance and administrative director for Andre House, and when I think about budgets, budgets are about priorities. They're about what's most important to us, and they show what we want to invest in as a community. And I used to teach junior achievement to a bunch of grade school kids back in Chicago, and we would often hold up cards where we talk about needs, and then we talk about wants, and we separate those two concepts, right? Every day, down at Andre House, what we see are people who quite simply just have needs that are unmet. And those needs are the basics we learn when we're in first and second grade: food, clothing, and shelter. When we look at the shelter situation and we look at what brings people into homelessness, it is a complex problem. There's huge economic factors, there's huge social factors, there's certainly issues of behavior and conduct for those individuals experiencing homelessness. But what we've learned is that we really can't solve those without shelter. I love the coordinated approach. I think the engagement approach that involves PD, that involves case management, that is the approach that will work. It works in other cities. That outreach has an excellent track record. The challenge we're facing, and it really is an immediate problem, is that the reduction in shelter beds, we're going to have 250 of the most vulnerable people right out there on the streets in the nearby neighborhoods come September 30th. And while I want to see as much funding go to housing and going to affordable housing so that we reduce this problem, right, in the long run, without shelter, without that basic need, we're really going to have a challenge on our hands. So I frame it as a need because I think that it's a very clear need. We watch that when people go through the CAS model, they go through our process, they go through all the other wonderful programs in town, they do get better. Their situations do improve. I would agree. I come from the big corporate world. If I said, hey, my goal was a 10% success rate, I'd say we need to look for another solution. But what I can tell you is that works well in the space of wants. But when you're talking about needs, you're talking about the need for shelter. You need to take every win you can and make it a priority before we move on to some of those wants. Thank you.
Thank you. So my daughter's a third grader, and she studies the needs and wants. So I use that, especially when she's wanting to buy the LOL dolls that cost $12 each. Is that a need or a want? Yvonne Bishara? Yvonne, guess what? You're the last one. I don't have yours.
Good evening, City Manager, officials, and staff, and our community. I thought it was so important to be here today, City Manager, because I work and I came straight down here. I didn't eat yet. I haven't been home yet, okay, and neither have you. So it means a lot to us, and I'm sure there's other people that can say that. What's important is, to everyone it's important, is street construction and maintenance. That's important to everyone, even cyclists. So I heard a lot of cyclists tonight, a lot of homeless, arts. What about the streets, okay? I know we had to put things off because the budget wasn't good for the past 4 or 5 years. I understand we had to put that off. But the streets are really in disrepair, and we all in Phoenix use them all the time. So I work on Roosevelt. I've seen the work about Roosevelt for the cultural arts. I've seen all the work that's been going on down there. And I'd say to the tree people, I've seen trees be put in down there. Now, I have seen them tear up the road, put Roosevelt Road on there, tear that up, put some more, and finally we got the trees on there. We finally got everything almost done. So, maybe better management about how many times we tear up the street for different things. But I propose, even though the tree people would disagree, that we take half of the tree and shade allotment and put it towards street construction and repairs, and delay the tree program a little bit. You have the money, keep going on it, but delay it a little bit. Don't have it as a big priority this year. I know the mayor really wants it, and I know it's a big idea, and it's good, it's not bad, but let's take that money and put it towards something that everyone can use in all of Phoenix, not just, little by little by little by little, we put the trees in. So I have seen some trees downtown, and so I'm just proposing, take some of that money and put it towards street construction. Thank you.
Thank you. So, David, yay. What happened is I marked you off. I thought I had already called you.
Well, thank you for giving me a second chance.
Yeah, of course. There's always second chances.
So my name's David Tapley. I've been living here for about 6 years in Phoenix. And I also want to echo the sentiments about bicycle and pedestrian safety. I've heard a lot of feelings. I'm more a mathy, statistic-y kind of person. And I think just if the city budget is the levers by which we set our priorities, I don't know that there's too many excuses for not doubling down on something when you're the worst in the nation, you know. And as Arizona in particular, but also Phoenix, the numbers are clear. And I think one of the sad things, especially with bicycle infrastructure, is it really gives a pretty good return on investment. These things aren't super expensive. Fire and police are, of course, important too, but putting down some protected bike lanes, the costs are pretty low relative, and you can make enormous gains. We just saw a talk on Saturday where we learned about what the city of Bogota has been doing, and in 5 years they could just throw out protected bike lanes everywhere, drop the incident rates, and they obviously have a much lower GDP than we do, so it's pretty hard to have lived here 5 years and seen such little progress and see us dip down and down and down in all the rankings. We're still bronze in the bicycle ratings, and I really think we could do better. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you to everybody. It is now 8:05. Would like to say thank all the staff and departments that are here. If you have any questions, people are available. There is something happening, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of it. And so I am going to make a formal request to have probably 2 or 3 more meetings within District 4 about election consolidation. If you're watching what's happening in the city of Phoenix, you know that there is going to be a change in May, maybe at the end of April, but May definitely, of our mayor stepping down. There will be a major shift that will be happening. I am highly encouraging everybody to get involved in that appointment. There will be possibly 2 appointments. 2 council people will be stepping down in the future after May, and there will be new appointments to those areas. More than likely, committees will be shifted. There will be a lot of change happening. And so I'm just trying to let everybody know now instead of later, after the fact, that your engagement is needed. Especially in the election consolidation. One of those areas, if we consolidate our elections, because the city of Phoenix has their own elections department, the Maricopa County, Maricopa County elections recorder, Maricopa County recorder, Mr. Fontes came and spoke and said, we rely on the city of Phoenix. They're our backup just in case something goes wrong with the county elections. You have an excellent city elections department that we learn from them and they learn from us. If it's consolidated, there will be, every council person will have an additional year added to their term. I don't really care about having an additional year added to my term, so I will be looking at writing language saying that when the term ends, that's when we go. It could be possibly giving up 3 months earlier than what your term is. It all depends on how it lands. There are 3 council people that are termed out, so it's advantageous to have an additional year. first argument was, we'll save money, and then we realized we weren't going to save money. So then the next argument came about, and it was about, hey, we want more voter participation, more turnout. Well, then you exclude the independents, which the majority registered these days are the independents. So I need you guys to engage. Probably several of my other colleagues were not probably as vocal as me, only because I'm watching the dynamics and the politics. And please, we'll see how quickly I can schedule them, but do 3 election consolidations, and I want to pack the room. So you will see that be coming out. You will see me all over the place, sending emails through the office, our newsletter, but it's very important. How else can I say this? We're seeing major shifts. We saw the shift politically, what happens if we're not engaged. So we do not want that to happen to our city politics. Let's keep it as clean, and let's keep it as nonpartisan as possible. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for staying and engaging. See you soon.